The 1966 United States quarter dollar, part of the transitional series of clad coinage following the end of silver use in circulating quarters, occupies a distinctive place in American numismatics because it reflects a major shift in U.S. monetary policy and coin manufacturing practices while still retaining the classic motifs that had characterized American coinage since the 1930s. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan and first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, the coin's obverse features a left-facing portrait of George Washington, rendered in a neoclassical style that emphasizes strong profile lines, a tight queue of hair consistent with 18th century fashion, and carefully modeled contours that give the bust a sculptural depth even on a small surface. Above Washington's portrait appears the bold, centered word Liberty, a hallmark of American coins since the nation's earliest issues, while beneath Washington's chin, aligned horizontally, is the national motto, In God We Trust, added to most U.S. coinage in the 19th century and mandated across all coin denominations by the mid-20th century. Because 1966 was a coinage emergency year, the mint omitted mint marks to discourage hoarding. Therefore, all genuine 1966 quarters carry no mint mark, although they may have been struck in Philadelphia or other facilities that assisted with production. The year itself, 1966, appears centered at the bottom of the obverse just below the truncation of Washington's bust, and the coin's exact composition reflects the new clad standard. Instead of the 90% silver alloy used on quarters prior to 1965, the 1966 quarter is composed of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, giving the coin its familiar two-metal sandwich appearance when viewed from the edge. The coin weighs 5.67 grams, measures 24.26 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded, grooved edge, a traditional anti-counterfeiting feature carried over from earlier silver coinage. Turning to the reverse, one finds Flanagan's powerful heraldic design dominated by an American eagle with outstretched wings, perched atop a bundle of arrows symbolizing readiness and national defense, all positioned above a semicircular wreath of olive branches symbolizing peace, the combination reflecting the dual nature of American ideals, strength tempered by restraint. Across the top rim of the reverse arcs the name of the country, United States of America, while immediately below this appears the historic Latin motto, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one, a reference to both the unity of the original colonies and the diversity inherent in the American identity. The denomination quarter dollar appears boldly at the bottom, completing a layout that balances symmetry with symbolic meaning. Historically, the 1966 quarter was produced during the height of the U.S. coinage shortage of the mid-1960s, a crisis driven by rising silver prices, hoarding of earlier silver coins, increased vending machine use, and rapid economic expansion, and the U.S. Mint responded by increasing production and suspending mint marks for 1965 to 1967 to reduce speculative collecting. Because of this mass production, hundreds of millions were struck. The 1966 quarter is generally common in circulated grades, though uncirculated or high-grade examples, particularly those with full strikes and clean surfaces, attract collector interest. Unlike certain earlier or later issues, the 1966 quarter has no major regular issue varieties, though minor die cracks, die clashes, and struck-through errors can exist and may command premiums among specialists. In terms of design legacy, the coin represents the final phase of the long-running Flanagan-Washington quarter design, which lasted from 1932 through 1998 before being replaced by the 50-state quarter series, but the 1966 issue stands out because it symbolizes the nation's adaptation to modern coinage technology, its response to economic pressures, and its commitment to retaining iconic national imagery even amid major structural change. While numismatically modest in monetary value, the 1966 Washington quarter remains an important historical artifact reflecting mid-20th century American identity, economic policy, and artistic continuity, carrying with it the enduring inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and E pluribus unum, that together express the philosophical foundations of the United States The next top. The United States of America quarter dollar from 1968, part of the long-running Washington Quarter series, represents an important transitional period in modern U.S. coinage, combining the familiar portrait of George Washington with a newer post-1965 clad metal composition that replaced silver due to the nation's rising silver prices and coin shortages. On the obverse, the coin features the profile of George Washington, sculpted by John Flanagan, adapted from Jean-Antoine Houdon's 18th-century bust, with the inscriptions Liberty above the portrait and In God We Trust positioned to Washington's left. Below the bust appears the date, 1968. Unlike silver quarters minted before 1965, the 1968 quarter is made from copper-nickel clad, meaning a pure copper core sandwiched between two layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it the familiar silvery appearance while being far less costly to produce. On the reverse, the design continues Flanagan iconic, long-used artwork of a heraldic eagle perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, accompanied by the inscriptions United States of America above, E Pluribus Unum centered just above the eagle's head, and quarter dollar along the bottom rim. The motto E Pluribus Unum, Latin for out of many one, reflects the founding ideal of unity formed from many states, while In God We Trust on the obverse reflects the national motto officially adopted in 1956 and present on all U.S. coins of the period. The year 1968 also marked the return of mint marks to the obverse after being omitted in 1965 to 1967 during the coinage shortage. Thus, 1968 quarters were struck at Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, D, and San Francisco, S, with the S coins produced as proofs. The Philadelphia and Denver business strike coins circulated widely, while San Francisco proof strikes, sharply detailed and mirror-finished, were sold to collectors in special sets, making them scarcer in everyday commerce. The dimensions remain traditional, approximately 24.3 millimeters in diameter, 1.75 millimeters thick, and weighing 5.67 grams, lighter than the earlier 90% silver quarters, which weighed 6.25 grams. Although not considered rare in general circulation, the 1968 quarter has collectible interest in specific conditions. High-grade, uncirculated examples with strong luster, proof coins with perfect surfaces, and rare varieties such as double-die obverse, repunched mint marks, or strikes with unusually strong details. These varieties can command value above face value, though most worn circulated pieces remain common. Historically, the coin symbolizes the shift from precious metal circulating coinage to modern clad composition, a change driven by economic necessity in the mid-1960s. It also marks the continuation of the Washington Quarter's long reign from 1932 until the state quarters program began in 1999, making the 1968 issue part of the classic pre-statehood era. From a cultural perspective, the presence of mottos like In God We Trust and E Pluribus Unum, combined with Washington's portrait, expresses national identity, unity, and heritage. Even though millions were minted, each 1968 quarter carries the historical memory of a period when the U.S. Mint modernized its processes, stabilized coin production, and adapted to a new monetary reality. Today, a 1968 quarter that still shows crisp details of Washington's hair, the eagle's feathers, and clear lettering remains a small but meaningful piece of mid-20th century American numismatic history, valued by collectors for its place in the evolution of U.S. currency and appreciated by historians for what it represents about the economic and cultural environment of the late 1960s. The next top. The 1970 United States quarter dollar, minted at the Denver Mint, indicated by the small d mint mark on the obverse to the right of Washington's hair ribbon, is part of the long-running Washington Quarter series, which began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth and continued with the same basic design until the state quarter started in 1999. The obverse front of the 1970 quarter features the left-facing portrait of George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan, along with the inscriptions Liberty across the top, In God We Trust, to the left of Washington's neck, and the date, 1970 beneath the portrait. The addition of the mint mark D identifies Denver production. The reverse back displays the classic heraldic eagle also created by Flanagan, a bald eagle with spread wings perched on a bundle of arrows, symbolizing American strength and readiness to defend the nation, with two olive branches curving below to represent peace. Above the eagle is the national motto, E pluribus unum, out of many one, and around the rim are the inscriptions, United States of America, at the top and quarter dollar at the bottom. The 1970 D quarter is made of the standard clad composition introduced in 1965, an inner core of pure copper and an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it a silvery appearance while eliminating the silver used in earlier quarters. In terms of production, the Denver Mint struck well over 400 million 1970 D quarters, making it a common circulation coin, which means most examples are worth only face value unless found in mint state condition. Collectors look for high-grade coins with sharp strikes, clean fields, and minimal wear, where certified examples in MS 65 or higher can carry modest premium values. A very small number of varieties and errors are known, including off-center strikes, double dies, and clipped planchets, though none are as famous as dramatic errors from other years. If a 1970 D quarter appears unusual in lettering, rim shape, or thickness, it can be evaluated for error potential. The coin's inscriptions, In God We Trust, on the obverse and E pluribus unum, on the reverse, are part of the long-standing symbolic language of U.S. coinage, reinforcing the nation's traditional mottos and identity. While the 1970 D quarter is not rare, it carries historical value as a representative of early 1970s U.S. currency during the period following the transition away from silver coinage, and well-preserved examples, especially those pulled from mint sets, remain popular with collectors who aim to complete the next top. The United States of America 1972, D Washington Quate States of America 1972, D Washington quarter dollar is a notable circulation strike coin produced at the Denver Mint, representing a continuation of the long-running Washington Quarter Series first issued in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and the 1972 D issue holds particular importance for collectors because it falls within the group of pre-bicentennial clad quarters that, while common in circulation, present an array of subtle die variations, striking differences, and wear patterns that can influence desirability, grading outcomes, and value. The obverse of the coin features the familiar portrait of George Washington, sculpted originally by John Flanagan, with Washington facing left, his distinctive tied Q hairstyle depicted with relatively sharp detail when the die was fresh. Above his head appears the bold inscription Liberty, spread across the upper rim, while at the left of Washington's neck, typically aligned beneath the chin in a slightly curved arc, sits the nation's long-standing motto, In God We Trust, which, on the 1972 D issue, often shows minor inconsistencies in strike strength due to the widespread use of high-pressure coining techniques that sometimes softened lettering details as dies wore. Beneath the truncation of Washington's bust, often near the lower right, appears the D mint mark, identifying the Denver Mint as its origin. This mint mark in 1972 tends to be small, raised, and crisp on well-struck examples, though collectors sometimes encounter coins where the mint mark seems weak, tilted, or slightly filled, conditions often caused by die polishing residue, metal flow, or debris on the punch rather than actual errors. The coin's reverse displays the traditional heraldic eagle, another Flanagan design, a powerful eagle with wings outstretched, perched upon a bundle of arrows symbolizing readiness and defense, while beneath the arrows lies an olive wreath, or set of olive branches, signifying the country's desire for peace. Above the eagle arches the phrase United States of America, and directly below it in smaller lettering appears the Latin motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one, a core expression of national unity. This inscription's clarity on 1972 D quarters varies widely because heavily used reverse dies often exhibit fading or mushy lettering, especially in the curved portions of the P, B, and U, leading some collectors to seek well-struck examples with full, Sharp legends. The denomination quarter dollar stretches along the bottom rim of the reverse, its serifed letters providing a good reference point for assessing the quality of the strike. On a strong strike, the letters display crisp corners and minimal flattening, whereas on weak or worn examples these letters appear smooth or eroded from circulation. The composition of the 1972 D quarter, as with all circulating Washington quarters from 1965 onward until the introduction of the state quarters in 1999, is a copper-nickel-clad structure, a pure copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel, yielding a total weight of 5.67 grams, a diameter of 24.3 millimeters, and a reeded edge. Consequently, unlike quarter dollars minted in 1964 or earlier, the 1972 D has no silver content, which makes it extremely common in circulated grades, but still collectible in pristine mint state conditions for those seeking high-end examples of early clad-era quarters. The Denver Mint struck a substantial number of these pieces, over 311 million 1972 D quarters, ensuring that the majority remain widely available. Yet this large mintage also means that many dies were used to exhaustion, producing numerous coins with partial detail loss, uneven strikes, die cracks, die polish lines, or other minor production anomalies, though not always valuable. Such features can be of considerable interest to error and variety collectors who enjoy cataloging minute differences between dies. Among distinguishing features, some 1972 D quarters show faint die cracks along Washington's neck, across the eagle's wings, or near the coin's rims. Others display die gouges or die scratches left over from mint maintenance work, occasionally resulting in distinctive patterns, straight lines, arcs, or tiny raised bumps that collectors sometimes nickname, e.g., scratched bust, wing gouge, or rim break. While no major varieties of nationwide fame exist for the regular issue 1972 D quarter, unlike, for example, the double die obverse of 1971 or the famous 1964 accented hair-proof type, dedicated hobbyists still look for subtle double die minor varieties, especially mild doubling seen on the words Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the reverse lettering, though most are modest in value unless exceptionally strong. Condition plays a significant role in desirability. Coins that saw heavy circulation often exhibit flattened hair details on Washington, soft eagle feathers, particularly on the breast and wingtips, and rim nicks. In contrast, mint state, MS, examples graded MS 64, MS 65, or MS 66 can appear quite attractive, showcasing brilliant luster, clean surfaces, and sharply defined portrait details. Higher-end mint state coins, especially MS 67 and above, are considerably scarcer due to the Denver Mint's high-speed production, which often left quarters with contact marks, friction, or suboptimal luster even before they entered circulation. Collectors evaluating a 1972 D quarter typically look closely at the high points. On the obverse, the hair above Washington's ear and temple should show full strands rather than smoothed areas. On the reverse, the eagle's breast feathers, neck feathers, and inner wing details are critical for identifying a strong strike. Coins with crisp feather detail and no distracting marks command higher prices in certified slabs. Additionally, luster type matters. Some 1972 D quarters display a satin, fine-grained texture, while others show swirling cartwheel luster indicative of fresher dies. Because 1972 is within the clad coinage's early years, many strikes appear dull or lifeless due to die deterioration, making well-lustered pieces desirable. Beyond aesthetics, the 1972 D quarter represents a transitional moment in U.S. numismatic history. America was adjusting to a full decade of clad coinage following the 1965 removal of silver, and the mint's focus was on efficiency, volume, and durability, resulting in industrial die use that produced practical, long-lasting coins but fewer exceptionally sharp examples. As such, today's collectors often treat high-grade examples as representatives of early 1970s minting practices, appreciating them not for rarity, but for their role in the evolution of modern American coinage. Even circulated 1972 D quarters hold educational value. They reveal how nickel-clad layers react to wear, oxidation, environmental exposure, and damage, allowing new hobbyists to learn grading principles firsthand. In the larger context of the Washington Quarter Series, the 1972 D issue sits between the post-1971 hub modifications and the approaching 1976 bicentennial redesign, making it a snapshot of the classic Eagle reverse just a few years before the Mint introduced the special Drummer Boy design for the nation's 200th birthday celebration. For those building a complete Washington Quarter Dayton Mint set, the 1972 D is essential, and because it is common, collectors can be selective, aiming for clean, attractive examples with full rims, sharp lettering, minimal bag marks. The 1980 United States Quarter Dollar is part of the long-running Washington Quarter Series, which began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and the 1980 issue represents an era when the U.S. Mint was producing large quantities of circulating clad coinage following the permanent removal of silver from quarters in 1965. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the P mint mark, placed on the obverse to the right of Washington's ponytail, was still relatively new. Having been introduced in 1980 for the quarter denomination after decades in which Philadelphia coins bore no mint mark, making the 1980 P significant as the first regular issue year a quarter from Philadelphia carried an identifying letter, and the coin itself consists of a copper-nickel clad composition. Outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, giving it a total weight of 5.67 grams, a diameter of 24.26 millimeters, and a reeded edge that visually distinguishes it from lower value coins. The obverse, designed by John Flanagan, depicts a left-facing portrait of George Washington, originally modeled from Jean-Antoine Houdon's classical bust, and includes 3 key inscriptions. Liberty, positioned prominently above Washington's head as a symbolic representation of the nation's foundational ideal. In God We Trust, placed to the left of the profile and officially adopted on U.S. coinage in the 19th century, reflecting the national motto codified by Congress in 1956, and the date 1980, below the bust, identifying the year of minting. Meanwhile, the reverse also uses Flanagan design that had been in place since 1932, showcasing an American bald eagle, a long-standing emblem of strength and freedom, perched on a bundle of arrows representing preparedness and military defense, while beneath the arrows lies an olive branch symbolizing peace. A duality that expresses the United States' desire for peace, but determination to protect itself. Above the eagle arches the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one, signifying the union of states into a single nation, and surrounding the rim is the country name, United States of America, and the denomination quarter dollar, clearly defining the coin's issuing authority and value. In terms of production, the Philadelphia Mint struck more than 635 million of the 1980 P quarters, making them common in circulation and readily available to collectors today, with most examples in circulated condition holding only face value, although exceptionally well-preserved mint state pieces, especially those with strong strikes, clean fields, and minimal contact marks, can carry modest premiums in the numismatic market, particularly in high certification grades such as MS 66 or MS 67, which are scarcer due to the heavy usage and bag marking associated with high-volume minting during this era. Furthermore, collectors sometimes seek out varieties or errors from the 1980 P issue, including off-center strikes, die cracks, filled-in mint marks, or double die characteristics, though none are widely recognized as major varieties, making such pieces interesting but not commonly rare. Overall, the 1980 P quarter holds historical relevance because it marks the beginning of Philadelphia's mint mark usage on quarters, represents the late 20th century period of U.S. clad coinage, and continues the classic Washington Eagle design that served the nation for more than 6 decades. And while it is not a rare coin, it remains an important artifact of American monetary history containing the familiar national mottos, In God We Trust and E Pluribus Unum, making it a small yet meaningful reflection of the nation's values, symbolism, and numismatic evolution.